Hello, I'm Katie Dias. I'm a Senior Associate in the Employment team here at Goodman Derrick, and my aim in this podcast is to give you a brief overview of the main duties owed by a director. It stems from fiduciary duties, and essentially fiduciary duties are all about trust, confidence and loyalty. There's lots of examples of fiduciary relationships, for example, a doctor and their patient, a lawyer and their client, and the one that we're obviously looking at today, a director and a company. And the quote on the slide effectively says it all. The principal, being the company, is entitled to single-minded loyalty from its fiduciary, the director. Now there are 4 key elements to fiduciary duties. The first is not to put yourself in a position of conflict. The second, not to profit from your position. The third, to give undivided loyalty. And the fourth, to maintain confidentiality. Now, the majority of these fiduciary duties were codified by the Companies Act 2006. So the Companies Act set out 7 duties, all relevant to directors. So we'll look at these each in turn. The first duty is to act within power. That basically means to act in accordance with the company's constitution, things like the Articles of Association and the resolutions, and to also only exercise those powers for their proper purpose. The second is to promote the success of the company. There's a requirement on the director to act in good faith in the way that would be most likely to promote the success of the company for the benefit of the members as a whole. The director should have regard to lots of different factors, for example, the long-term likely consequences, the interests of the employees, the business relationships with suppliers and customers and other third parties, the impact on the community and environment, reputational issues, and also acting fairly between the members. The third duty is to exercise independent judgment, which is hopefully self-explanatory. But just to clarify, this does not prevent a director from relying on professional advice. However, the director must exercise their own judgment in deciding whether to follow the advice or not. The fourth duty is to exercise reasonable care, skill and diligence. Again, this is self-explanatory. But what's interesting to note is that there are 2 elements to the test, an objective element and a subjective element. So, you need to consider the general knowledge, skill and experience that might reasonably be expected of a person carrying out the functions of the director, as well as the knowledge, skill and experience that the director actually has. The 5th duty is to avoid conflicts of interest, which again is self-explanatory. Now, conflict situations can be direct or indirect, and they can be actual or the potential likelihood for conflict. The 6th duty is not to accept benefits from third parties. Essentially, this prohibits the exploitation of the position of the director for personal gain. A benefit is not defined in the legislation, but will take a very wide meaning, and there will also be overlap with things like the Bribery Act. The 7th duty is to declare an interest in any proposed transaction or arrangement. A director must declare the nature and the extent of any interest that they have with any proposed transaction or arrangement with the company. Now, for completeness, it's also important to mention that there are other statutory duties that apply to directors, and some examples are set out on the slide. However, this is not an exhaustive list. Thank you for listening. My details are on the slide if you have any queries or would like legal advice on this subject or any aspect of employment law. Please do also connect on LinkedIn and our other social media channels too. Thank you again for listening, and look out for our other podcasts on directors' duties